Alrighty, Draft Compass fans, so I'm finally going from just a blog to actually doing some video, and for my very first video, of course, rocking my Darnell Savage jersey, I want to do a Packers mock draft. Now, I don't want to bore everybody with me going through it live or anything like that, so what I did was I ran a series of different scenarios, made various trades and so forth, to try to get as many of my favorite players as possible. So, for this mock draft, there might be some wackiness here. There's a couple of trade downs and so forth, but ultimately, I got a draft where I could walk away and say, wow, the Packers are significantly stronger, both now and in the future. Quick note before we get things started, all credit for the mock draft engine goes to Pro Football Focus. That's the draft engine that we use today. So without further ado, it's Thursday night. We're awaiting eagerly for that pick number 22. We see guys being taken up, and we still see my guy on the board. Pick 22 comes up, and we say, well, we could trade down, or we could just go after my guy. We're going after my guy at pick number 22. We are taking Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas. The thing I love about Burks is he accounted for such a large portion of Arkansas's passing attack. Teams were scheming against him, and he was still producing. Okay, so there's some talk about him running a slightly slower 40. Watch him play. He doesn't play slow. Reminds me a lot of, the guy we just traded away, Davante Adams. Now, they are definitely different players. Davante's a little bit quicker. Burks is a little bit bigger, but they're those types of guys that just produce, find ways to get open. So, loving this pick, Treylon Burks. And we drop off that card and we say, all right, we got our guy. Next pick, pick 28. So looking at this pick, looking at the guys on the board, and looking at all the guys that I really want later in the draft, I say, you know what? I'm picking up that phone, I'm listening to everybody, and guess what? Jets have just made an offer I really like. So with this trade down with the Jets, Packers give up pick 28, and then also a third round pick, pick 92. Now in turn, the Packers are going to get pick 35, which is the Jets' second round pick 69, which is a third round pick 117, which is a fourth round pick. So we're gathering up this ammunition, and we're going to move on down. So that's it, day one. Day two, second round starts, pick 35 comes up, and we like a guy on the board, but we're saying, you know what, to get all of the guys that I want, let's see if we could do one more trade down. And so we're picking up that phone, we're listening, and Seahawks are calling us. So Seahawks give us a really great offer. We don't need to move down that far. So Packers give up pick 35, which is the second round pick 132, which is a fourth round pick 140, which is a fourth round pick, and then the Packers are going to receive pick 41. So we're only moving down 6 spots to pick 41, which is the second round pick, and pick 72, which is a third round pick. We're going to need that third round pick later. Now we're at pick 41. We're waiting eagerly. We still see our guy on the board. It's our pick. Pick 41. Packers look and they say, boom, we got the guy that we want, or at least the guy Andre wants. So we're going to turn in that card and we are going to get Chad Muma, linebacker, Wyoming. Muma was one of my early draft crushes, and that's prior to re-signing Devondre Campbell. So I was really doing a deep dive on the different linebackers that are in this draft. My thoughts are, when I watched him on tape, first thing I said was, this guy is Blake Martinez with his instincts, but he's a better athlete. He can move sideline to sideline much quicker than Martinez ever could. And I love Blake Martinez. He was great for the Packers. Wasn't the best in coverage, which they say is the knock on Muma. I didn't see it on tape. Love this guy. I think if he went to a bigger school, then there wouldn't be the question of caliber of competition. He'd be a first round pick easy. So Loving this pick. It's really going to help the Packers out. Now with Devondre Campbell, Muma can move in as the second inside linebacker in our base defense. He doesn't necessarily even need to leave during nickel. And years down the road, after Devondre Campbell's contract is up, we still got Muma, and he's got experience, and he's maybe put a little bit of bulk on. Alrighty, so now eagerly awaiting. We still got a couple of guys we really like on this board, and we hope drop down to our next pick. Pick 53 comes up. Two of my guys are still on the board, which is great because we got the 53rd and the 59th pick. So with pick 53, I sprint that card up, and I get Christian Watson, wide receiver, North Dakota State. When I first started watching tape, I said, you have got to be kidding me that more people aren't talking about this guy. He's got speed, he's got hands, looks like a pretty decent route runner, though most of his routes are sort of that fly, those deep catches. But a thing that I really, really liked about him is I said, he's Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but better hands, little more refined. Big knock on him, he could add some weight, but that's okay. Wide receivers typically do add a little bit of weight when they come up to the NFL. Just ask Donald Driver about his insane way of keeping on weight with his, I think, 2 or 3 different dinners. All right, so we've got 2 wide receivers now. This is great. We've got our deep threat. We've got our guy that's the after the catch guy, got good hands with Treylon Burks. We're knocking this out of the park. Okay, pick 59 comes up, and we still have our backup guy if we didn't get Christian Watson. He's sitting there. Now, the Packers have lost 3 wide receivers already in the offseason. They need to bring more guys in, both now and down the road. And so we're looking at it and we're saying, you know what? Let's just pull this trigger. We're going to get Alec Pierce, wide receiver, Cincinnati. I first started watching tape on Pierce because I read somewhere that somebody said, oh, he's like Jordy Nelson. I said, no way he's like Jordy Nelson. They're just making similar comparisons to size and whatnot. No, they are very similar. I was watching a play and I said, that's a Jordy Nelson catch. Really fun video to watch is to go look at the Sports Science where it breaks down Jordy Nelson making a sideline catch where he jumps up, spins, catches the ball, lands, and he's inbound still. I saw Pierce make the same exact catch. I like his speed. I like his hands. A lot of hand catching when I watch tape on him. I really like his overall competitiveness, his size, and he's willing to block. So knocking it out of the park there with getting 3 wide receivers, all 3 high. Aaron Rodgers is going to be happy. Pick 72. This is where the Packers can really start looking at special teams. Watching tape on this guy, and I was very impressed, not just with his return ability, but also with how well he played the position. And so turning in that card, and we are going to get Marcus Jones, cornerback, kick returner from Houston. I know he's 5'8". He doesn't play like a guy that's 5'8". He's got great coverage skills. He can jump up, deflect the ball, intercept the ball. He's a playmaker. So yeah, maybe not an outside guy unless it's an emergency. Maybe he's just situational. Maybe you use him as a chess piece on defense. Maybe he falls into the slot. But having a guy that you know can at least be decent if he has to fill in, and he's also your kick returner, that's knocking it out of the park again. So I love Jones. I loved when I was watching him because I kept saying, God, he's only 5'8". Okay, well, let's check out this cornerback. That's when I first started looking at him, and then I saw that he was a kick returner. So watching those kick returns, it's a thing of beauty. He's quick. He's got great vision. Super fast running down the field. This guy is going to be a star in the NFL. Maybe not at cornerback. Maybe he's just that fill-in, like I said, but I love this guy. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. Obviously, all of these guys are some of my favorite players in the draft, so it's going to change the Packers special teams. They haven't had a good punt returner for quite some time. And this guy's more of a punt returner than a kick returner, but it seems like he can do both. All right, our next pick is pick 69. So Packers get to 69. They say, There's a lot of guys we like on the board, and the phone rings, and they say, all right, one more trade. They pick it up, and it's the Chargers, and the Chargers say, hey, we really like a guy at that spot. We're willing to trade up just a little bit, and here's our package. So the Packers say, all right. Packers trade away pick 69, which is the third-round pick. They then also trade away pick 228, which is a seventh-round pick. And in turn, they receive pick 79, a third-round pick, pick 123, which is a fourth-round pick, and pick 160, which is a fifth-round pick. So pick 79 rolls around. Our guy is still on the board. The gamble paid off, and we turn in that card for Max Mitchell, offensive tackle, Louisiana. So right now, the Packers have some decent depth at offensive line, particularly in the middle. Just decent at the offensive tackle position with the backups. However, they do always have Dennis Kelly that they can bring back, assuming nobody else signs him. And so that's an insurance policy out there. The good thing with Max Mitchell is he is a little bit raw, but he's got so much potential. So Packers can work with him for a season, and then they're going to have a good, solid swing tackle and a guy that could possibly start down the road. Really, really great thing about Max Mitchell is he was so darn effective last year for Louisiana. Now, I know, slightly smaller school, but he was very good, so we bring him in. We mold Max Mitchell to eventually start for us, and we can have patience because we still have some pretty decent depth. Moving on, pick 117. Now, there's one position where we've got a lot of depth, but we could use some more talented guys, particularly young guys, and that is tight end. Now, Matt LaFleur uses tight ends in a lot of different ways. So you've got sort of your H-back tight end, and then you have your run-blocking tight end, and then you have your receiving tight end. So with this pick, we're going to go with Jelani Woods, tight end, Virginia. Now, Woods reminds me a lot of Mercedes Lewis, but he's a little bit faster and a little rougher around the edges. But he's a big guy. He's got a lot of potential to block. He's got a lot of potential in the red zone. I love this guy. He's going to be great for the Packers because Mercedes Lewis can help mold him. The reality is that most of the time, tight ends, it takes them a season or two to really start producing in the NFL as it is. So you may as well bring a guy in now that you can start to mold. Now, I did miss out on one of my favorite players at tight end already, but I have Woods at my number 2. So really, really liked the potential of Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State, but he's going to go a lot earlier in the draft. He's a bit more refined, maybe not quite as good at hands, but there were other players I liked a lot more than him, so I was willing to wait for Jelani Woods here. All right, pick 123. Looking at the roster, looking at the guys that we picked already, and there's one guy that really stands out to me with a guy that can really come in and be a good, solid role player for the Packers as well as help out that special teams. And so with pick 123, we get, again, one of my favorite players in this draft, a guy who I loved watching his tape, Pierre Strong Jr., running back, South Dakota State. Again, smaller school. He's not going to be able to do all of the things that he did at South Dakota State in the NFL, and that's fine. He's really just going to be our rotational change of pace back and a really good kick returner. So we got our punt returner earlier with Marcus Jones. Now we're going to get a kick returner, and we're going to start to solidify a weak position on the Packers. The thing I really dig about Pierre Strong is that when you watch him play, he actually plays pretty similar, and I'm not saying that he has quite the natural talent as this guy, but he's very similar to Warrick Dunn. That smaller, kind of slender frame, good solid quickness, good solid speed, and they're little backs that play like bigger backs, so they're going to break some tackles from time to time and surprise you. So bottom line here is we're, again, strengthening up that special teams, but also having a role player on offense. Really fun fact about Pierre Strong Jr., he went 7 for 7 for 174 yards passing, and 4 of those 7 passes went for a touchdown while he was in college. Don't know if that's ever going to translate in the NFL, but it shows that he has some of those quarterback skills and some of those extra skills and some of those gadget play skills. So we'll see if that ever solidifies, but running back and as a kick returner, really love Pierre Strong Jr. out of South Dakota State. Pick 160. Now there's some edge rushers I really liked we've missed out on, but edge rusher isn't an immediate need. We really just need a guy that can learn and maybe contribute a little bit here and there, which means that we can take a bit of a gamble on talent here. And so with pick 160, Packers go with Dominique Robinson, edge rusher, Miami of Ohio. So again, there's some guys I liked a little bit better, but by the 5th round, you can take a gamble on some of these guys. The really cool thing about Robinson is he was a wide receiver that converted to edge rusher. And he did fairly well. I mean, you definitely see he is pretty raw. But with that athletic talent, it's going to be interesting to see just what he can do. And so you roll the dice here and you go with Dominique Robinson, edge rusher, Miami of Ohio. Packers can use a guy like this on special teams as well as slowly developing him, rotating him in. All right, pick 171 is our next pick. We're looking at the board and there is a guy that's really sticking out. I did not target this position at all, but he's right there in front of me. So with pick 171, we go with Matt Araiza, punter, San Diego State. Again, I wasn't targeting a punter. I know that we signed Pat O'Donnell, and he should be a solid punter. But I kept thinking back to when the Packers drafted Mason Crosby. They had Dave Rayner. Rayner was okay as a kicker, but they looked at it and they said, you know what? Crosby's way too talented to be here. And I think Araiza is the same exact way. So Packers drop off that card, get a punter, and now there's a punting competition. May the best man win. And if Araiza doesn't turn out and we keep Pat O'Donnell, that's totally fine because then we have our guy no matter what, but you got to take shots. Pick 249. Looking at our depth chart, seeing a guy out there that I really like. So pick 249, big fan of Nick Ford, center from Utah. Now he's a little bit taller of a guy for a center. He's got some versatility. I really don't think, and this is the flaw with the different draft engines, I don't think he's really going to be here, but he was there. Packers could use some depth at center. They're really good at guard, but we lost Lucas Patrick, and so we pulled the trigger and we get Nick Ford, center from Utah, because he's just too good to pass up at this point. Okay, final pick, pick 258. I had to break the rules a little bit here, because I really like this guy and he wasn't in the Pro Football Focus draft engine, but he's going to be here because he's likely an undrafted free agent. With pick 258, Matt Henningsen, defensive lineman, Wisconsin. The thing I love about Henningsen is that I wasn't even watching his tape. I was watching tape on the 2 Wisconsin linebackers, and 3rd and 1, all of a sudden, a tackle for a loss happens in the backfield, and it's Matt Henningsen. I say, oh, wait, who is that guy? So, started watching more tape on him. As I watched tape on him in the same exact game, same exact scenario happens later, and boom, he's making the same play again. Tackle for a loss in the backfield on 3rd and short. I'm a big fan of guys like this because since they're lunch pail guys, they're likely not going to get the attention on those types of plays, but their motor is running hot 100% of the time, and so teams will tend to ignore him, and that's when he'll make his plays. That's when he'll do the damage. So big fan of Matt Henningsen with this final pick for the Packers. All right, with that, that's a wrap on my perfect Packers mock draft. Keep an eye out. I'll continue to try to make some videos here and there, and thanks for watching.